What's up? It's Holly, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about something that is pretty near and dear to my heart. It's personal to me. I have been dealing with arthritis and arthritic pain for, I would say, at least the last 15 years. And as I'm approaching the age of 40, I'm actually, I experience it a little bit more often, a little bit more frequently. So here's the deal, a little bit of my background. It's interesting because I recently listened to a podcast where the gentleman, the expert, talked about how excessive exercise could ultimately lead to chronic pain, right? And so there's been a lot of studies on professional athletes and people who spend literally hours upon hours working out every single day. And over time, like it's almost like we only have so much use of our joints and our major, areas of our body, right? Now, this isn't everybody, but this is speaking general population. So, I was a gymnast. I did gymnastics for, let's see, roughly 8 years. I did gymnastics for about 8 years. I competed for about 5 of those years, and I experienced lots of injuries. I went into it in order to get myself into shape. So I was, a little bit more on the overweight side when I started gymnastics. I don't really have the specific body type that you would think of as a gymnast. So because of that, I ended up becoming really, really, really strong. Well, even when you're really, really strong, I was a heavier, gymnast. That's neither here nor there. I've dealt with it. It's one of the best things I ever did for myself. Taught me amazing self-discipline. It taught me how to work hard for something that didn't come natural for me. And of course, just being overall aware of where your body is in space and having confidence in movement and how you move your body, just amazing. I absolutely love the sport. My kids want to do gymnastics. I'm going to go for it. But because of all of that, and because of the injuries that I did incur, and because I did work out an excessive amount when I was younger, that also kind of set the tone for as I got older. And I kind of developed this mindset of, like a lot of athletes do. It's like the no pain, no gain, right? Or, it has to feel like really, really, really flipping hard in order for it to work. And so I developed that mindset. And, after my gymnastics years, I went into, group fitness, and I did a lot of videos, like fitness videos, and just a lot of stuff in general. In the fitness world, fitness certifications, train people. I would teach literally about like 15 classes a week, and then sometimes also teaching certifications on the weekends where I'm working out like 3-4 hours a day. Anyways, neither here nor there. Although I don't regret it, I wish I would have reined myself in a little bit more, because I think that I know that it would have helped my joints with some longevity. Of course, when you're young and you're super strong, you feel completely invincible. You think that those things are never going to catch up with you. You think, oh, it's only pain, it's no big deal. But as you get older, you can realize that some of this pain can increase. So right here goes with my topic of like, how can you exercise if you have arthritis? Now, there's 2 different types of arthritis. Of course, there's the traditional arthritis that you know of. As you get older, your joints start to creak and everything. And then there's rheumatoid arthritis. I was fortunate enough to get my degree in kinesiology, and I love the field. I love the industry. One of my most favorite classes that we ever took was, we called it special populations. And in this class, we learned how to train individuals with all these different, conditions. So even all the way from pregnancy through epileptics, older individuals, morbidly obese, pretty much every population. And one thing that always stuck with me was this whole idea of arthritis. And little did I know that a couple years later, I would have been diagnosed with having arthritis myself. But I learned that this is something that has to be almost regulated and monitored on a session by session basis. That always stuck with me. There's lots of things that stick with you through education and whatnot, but that's one of the tips that always stuck with me. And a couple years later, fast forward, I was in a chiropractor office I had been in a really bad car accident. I had a severe reverse curvature of my cervical spine. So it's normally supposed to be like this, right? And mine was like, whoop, it was completely reversed of that cervical spine. But not only that, at the time, because they did x-rays and all these other things, all these other tests, that's when I first found out. Because I have always, and like for the longest time, had always had like an ache in my neck, shoulders, upper back area. And I just assumed it was from working out. It was just, you know, just kind of how my body was built. And when after getting all of those results back, that's when he told me, he said, you are starting to get arthritis. And I think I was about like 22 at the time, maybe 23, something like that. And I went, oh man, like that was when I first started to figure out that I kind of needed to pay a little bit better attention to how I was treating my body. Now, of course, I still went full bore. I still went full force for like the next 7 years or something, where I was just like a maniac and I felt completely unstoppable. But then right around the time, you know, before I hit 30, around like 28, 29, 30, I was starting to ask myself, now I'm almost achy every single day. Like I was experiencing pain every single day. And although I am in the fitness industry and I feel like I have to keep up with everyone else, and there are people who are older than I am, and I feel like they're doing way more than me. Like, why am I experiencing such difficulty, you know, such difficulty and such pain and just this constant ache all throughout my body? And you know, that's really when I started making the decision to step less, to start modifying, to start listening to myself a little bit more, because I ultimately knew, like, that was before I was 30. I'm like, I have hopefully 60 more years in me. I need to start taking better care of my body. And that's ultimately why I launched doing like online fitness training as opposed to everything in person. That was a big reason why, because I was putting a lot of time on my body and my joints. And I knew I needed to start working smarter. I did not want to be the person who was, you know, completely decrepit because I was just too stubborn to listen to my body, or I wanted to keep up with the Joneses, or I felt like my ego was going to get in the way. I didn't want to be that person. So that's when I started making adjustments. So let's get back to arthritis. Like, what do you actually do? And, you know, and the reason I thought of this is because I was in my cycling class this morning, which I love. You know, you're going to find that your fitness journey is going to take different turns at different times. And I think that has a lot to do with, of course, like what's appealing to you right now, but also like what restrictions that you have. And then also, you know, where are you getting the best bang for your buck? Because last year I was still teaching, you know, turbo kick a couple times a week. Even though my physical therapist said you should not do that, I was still doing it because I loved it. And I'm like, and then anytime I taught a dance class, it's like, for me to get my cardio is on point. I've been doing cardio for so long that in order for me to get a really strong cardio workout, I have to jump or run or do something like super intense. And being a mom of two, 10 pounds heavier than I'm used to being, you know, after having kids, those darn nasty last 10 pounds, they just seem to linger. And I know that a lot of that's my own personal nutrition choices, etc. But you know what I'm saying? Like, and your body starts to change too. Your metabolism starts to adjust. So you got to start making adjustments as you change. You have to change what you're doing. So last year I was still doing turbo kick a couple times a week. I was still teaching dance classes. I was still doing like weight training classes where I was doing a lot of squats and lunges. Almost every single class is squats and lunges, right? So, you know, I ended up in to see a knee specialist, and they were doing a series of injections on one of my knees to see if that would, you know, create some cushion. Because of course, once again, that's when I was told, oh, look, all of this you have arthritis. And that's the main reason for your knee pain, is that you have arthritis in your knees now. I'm like, okay. The doctor told me plainly. He said, you can keep doing exactly what you're doing, and you'll be fine. Like, I'll give you no restrictions. And I even have a partial tear on one of my meniscus. But he's like, you're super strong, so it's holding everything in place. He's like, keep doing exactly what you're doing, but I guarantee you will have to get knee replacement surgery within the next 10 to 15 years. So if you just keep going exactly like you're going, and I was thinking to myself, do I really want to get a knee replacement surgery at like 48? Probably not. So that's when I started making some changes. And he told me, you need to start cycling. And I was like, oh, you know, I had tried cycling in the past, but because of my reserve, now my cervical spine is like this. It's like straight up and down, but it used to be completely reversed curve in my cervical spine. Because of that, being in that forward flexed position was so painful for my neck. So every cycling class that I had taken for the last 15 years, I couldn't even get through a whole class because I couldn't be in this position where I leaned forward. So he told me, you need to start cycling. And I just thank goodness. I thank the good Lord. You know what? God intervenes in so many wonderful ways. And it's funny because my friend and mentor, Shalene Johnson, the next day texted me and said, hey, I started doing this cycle workout. I really love it. You should come take it too. And she's like, we go every single Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 5:45 a.m. You should come. And at the time I was working out like 8 every day. So I'm like, oh man, that's early. But I'm kind of up early every day because of my kids. Okay. So I committed right then. I was like, this is a God thing, because my knee specialist said I needed a cycle. And then Shalene calls me and said, which was totally out of the blue. We don't talk that often. So it was quite amazing, and divine intervention. And so that has been a really big turning point for me. So going back to it, this morning I'm in my cycle class, and there are certain things during the class that really get my heart rate up, that feel really powerful and strong. However, I start to feel that ache in my knee. And that's when I know, okay, I need to sit down, or I need to take some resistance off. Even though I know I can do more, my body is telling me stop. So when you're dealing with arthritis, whether it's rheumatoid arthritis or the traditional arthritis that you're familiar with, like most people get when they're older in their joints, you have to go day by day, class by class. And here's the tricky thing about when you're exercising. When you're exercising, your body is warm. So when your joints are warm, you don't necessarily feel the pain that you're inflicting on yourself. And that's part of my problem is I can go and teach a turbo kick class. I could jump. I could do frog jumps. I could do burpees. I could do like crazy, amazing, wonderful things. But at the end of the day, like my kids are asking me to run with them. And I'm like, I have to sit. I'm sorry. Walking around Disneyland all day is tough for me because I'm so achy. So I've learned even though I know I can do these things, I have to rein it in. Even though I know my results will be better, I have to rein it in for my ultimate longevity, for my quality of life. And so if you are dealing with arthritis, I encourage you to do the same thing. Here's what you do. Number one, you must listen to your body. You must pay attention. Not just during the class, but I'm talking like minute by minute, like constantly check in with yourself. And if it feels uncomfortable in the joints that you know you have arthritis, I want you to take a step back. And ultimately, you're not going to know, this is the sad part, but you need to become a student of yourself, a student of your own body. Ultimately, you're not going to know whether or not it was too hard until later in the day, okay? So especially if dealing with rheumatoid arthritis, a lot of times, you're not going to know until it gets later whether it was too much or not. So if you are somebody who's training individuals with arthritis, or you yourself have arthritis, then this is what you need to remember. We can't just push ourselves. We need to work out for health and longevity and for movement, because if you're not moving, that's even worse. You need to move those joints. You do. But you also need to figure out how far is too far. And the only way to figure that out is by doing it. You just have to start moving. Figure out the activities that are the best for you. Figure out the activities that are the worst for you. Of course, anything that isn't a high impact typically is going to be the best for people with arthritis, meaning swimming, cycling, walking, anything where your feet don't leave the ground. Weight training, of course, but even with weight training, you need to constantly check in with yourself and say, is this worth it? Because I'm doing a wonderful program right now. It's lifting 4 days a week, and one of the days is devoted to legs. Well, pretty much every single leg workout there is, it's like squats and lunges. Oh, more squats and lunges. Oh, more squats and lunges. And honestly, those are two things that I'm not supposed to do. So during those parts of the workout, I have to do other things. I pull out my lower body bands, or lay on the floor, down. I do like side lying, traditional like calisthenic type exercises where I'm not putting the stress on my arthritic joints, which is, you know, of course, my knees. And I even have to be careful sometimes of anything that's going overhead because of the arthritis in my upper back and neck. So it's not terrible, but it could be worse. If I didn't start listening to my body, you know, 10 years ago, I know I'd be in a way worse position than I'm in now. And so I'm just encouraging you. Maybe you're not as far along as I am. Maybe you're just starting to feel those little aches and pains, or maybe you've been suffering from it so badly that you've been shying away from exercise. I'm here to tell you that exercise will be a godsend for you. It's going to give you mobility. It's going to give you flexibility. It's going to give you stamina. It's going to give you longevity. There are so many wonderful benefits to moving your body. I do not want you to shy away from it simply because you have arthritis. I want you to go for it, and I want you to continue to do it. But there is a way. You must pay attention to your body. And of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I want to say thank you so much for watching this. Please share, especially if you know of someone specifically that that is struggling with this. You can share it to them privately. Thank you so much. I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Let's keep moving. Let's keep living long, long, wonderful, happy, fulfilled lives. Have a great day. Bye-bye.